The first block we need to fill out here is going to be the thumbnail. So let's jump over to Banner Bear. Once you're in Banner Bear, let's jump over to our projects. Let's go to essentially create a project specific to this. We have YouTube course already created here. We're going to create a template, and we're going to use a custom template as they don't have thumbnails for YouTube as a default option. We're going to do a width of 1280 and a height of 720. Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to hit save here. And then from here, we can go ahead and hit edit template. And we can just start creating our YouTube thumbnail of how we want this to look. So to begin, let's go ahead and add a couple layers here. The first layer I'm going to add is going to be the image layer. And this is going to be from that AI generated image that we had earlier. So I'm going to use image rectangle here. And then I'm going to go ahead and say upload image. Perfect. So the image has been uploaded. I'm going to just go ahead and drag this. And then as we see here, this doesn't look bad at all. So this is going to be the AI generated image here. Drag this right here. And then let's go ahead and add the thumbnail text to this so we can have the text that we created in our Zapier flow show up here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a rectangle here. And let's go ahead and just expand it all the way. If I can grab it here, perfect. And you can go ahead and, angle it if you want to rotate it and so on. Let's choose a different color here, something a little bit more welcoming, like maybe something like this. And then essentially, I'm going to go ahead and move this over here a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and rename our image here because this is going to be essentially we grab the variable. Let's go ahead and rename this layer to food item. And then the rectangle, we don't need to rename because it's just a background. Now let's go ahead and add our 3 pieces of text. All right, perfect. So we got our first piece of text here. Let's go ahead and change the font size a little bit bigger. And then we're going to want to see about changing the color here. See if white would show up well here. If not, okay, we'll keep it black. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and make sure that we have this little box here, not go over the image, as we don't want to obviously bleed over the image for this context. And we're going to go ahead and rename this to line 1. And then we can go ahead and duplicate. And we can rename this to line 2. And this will make more sense as we jump over to Zapier. But for now, this is essentially, we're identifying each one as a separate layer so that this comes out perfect. We're going to do line 3. And let me say rename line 3. And just so we can get a better idea, let's go ahead and just center this. So we're going to do horizontal alignment center, and center. All right, perfect. And then I want to go ahead and increase the text a little bit more as this is a little small. So let's just see like 68. All right, perfect. Or maybe we want the middle part to be bigger than the other ones. So let's go ahead and do that. Make sure we save this template. And we're going to say thumbnail food. This is how we're going to call it in our Zapier function. All right, so this is a very simple template. Obviously, you can get a little bit more crazy, but for the purposes of this video, this is all we really need to do. We have our image variable. We have our text variable. Now let's jump back over to Zapier and connect all the dots here. Okay, we are back in Zapier. I'm going to go ahead and hit thumbnail design. Let's choose an event, and we're going to say create image. We're going to continue. We're going to choose the YouTube course account. Perfect. And then let's let it continue here. The template ID is going to be the one we just created. So it should show up here, thumbnail food, perfect. And then as you'll notice, it's going to ask for basically the variables we just identified, which would be line 1, line 2, and line 3. And from my understanding, those should be in order. They are in order from top to bottom. So first, let's go ahead and grab the image variable, which is going to be what was created before it, and this block right up here. And then we're going to go ahead and grab line 1. And that's why we formatted our text. So boom, output 1, come back down here, output 2, and then finally output 3. All right, perfect. So now we have officially created our thumbnail. This shouldn't work because I may need to retest this variable up here in order to make sure that link is live still. But let's go ahead and test it real quick. All right, so let me go ahead and retest this real quick. As you'll notice, when you work with DALL-E and AI generated images, the duration that the link lasts is only going to be like 30 minutes, which is not an issue because obviously automation, it's going to grab the image right away. You have no worry about any delay. But from now, this is the image that was just created. Let's see what it would look like in thumbnail format. Paste it into that new tab. And as you see, there we go. So we have the 3 pieces of text all of them were separated by our formatter and works out perfectly. Then we have the image that we just created put onto that text. So now this could possibly be your thumbnail. Obviously design your thumbnail how you want your YouTube videos to look like, but now you have created a template for YouTube thumbnails. From here, we're going to want to make sure that we add our banner ID that we just created. And the purpose of adding the banner ID is that we're going to use this as a reference. And this is it right here for when we create out the flow. So it automatically uploads the thumbnail to our YouTube videos. So we don't even have to do any work in our backend. So we'll go ahead and test that action. And it works. So perfect. Let's get to the final step in this specific lesson. I know it's long, but this is the most important lesson in this entire course. Now let's get into the step of essentially creating the template for the long form content of this video and then the short form content of this video. So once you're in your Cynthia account, we're going to go over to library. We're going to say templates and we're going to create a new template. And this template specifically is going to be our cooking food template. So this template is going to be the one that we associate with that entire Zap we just built out. So we're going to make sure that all our variables connect like effectively and that, you know, everything is interlinked. And so every time it generates using this template, there is no hiccups. Okay, so in order to begin, we're going to go ahead and add some scenes here. In total, I'm looking at around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scenes. So one thing about Cynthia is that either you can start with scratch or you can look at templates that are already being created by Cynthia, which is always helpful. So let's go ahead and just grab some templates that's already been created for our editing purposes. So we can go ahead and add this as the first template for the introduction, essentially, that we created earlier. And then let's go ahead and just delete that. And let's add some more scenes here and see what works best for us. All right, so I went ahead and just, researched around, and these are the scenes that I got. I like the formatting. You can go ahead and research yourself. A bunch of different types of formats and templates that you can be found in Cynthia. Let's go ahead and start off by first choosing our main avatar here. So I'm gonna go ahead and say replace avatar. And that is me, but that's not who we want to do. We'll just say Alex for today's video. And let me go ahead and just add Alex to all these different slides real quick. So all you need to do is click this, replace avatar, Alex, and go ahead and proceed from there. Now, when you come to slides that basically have no avatar, the avatar is still there. All you need to do is click avatar up here. Make sure you click Alex. And then for this context, I'm going to just do voice. I don't need to have this individual's face actually on there. And then for everything else, I'm just going to go ahead and use the default and go from there. The next thing I'm going to do is ensure that all the voices are the same. So we're going to say apply new voice to all female avatars, which in this context, we'll go ahead and go with the recommended voice of engaging. And then every single voice from here on out should be engaging as seen here. And that's good stuff. All right, the next step that is always useful in all these videos is we want to make sure that our color scheme is unanimous throughout. So let's go ahead and update all the color schemes for all these different slides here. So that is as simple as just going here and clicking the correct fill. And honestly, let's stay with this color scheme from the first slide here and make it unanimous throughout all the slides here. So for example, this is sufficient, but maybe we want to change the background here to the orange that we had there. Okay. From here, we can go ahead and you can add a logo if you want to. I'm going to delete that. Come over here, and then we're going to change this orange here to the color that we're looking for here. Perfect. I'm going to remove this as we don't need that. And then we definitely want to change this. So we're going to go ahead and change this right there. And then we'll go ahead and grab our secondary color that was founded here in the background. And we're going to go ahead and copy that. Bring that over here. And I'm going to go ahead and do this for the rest of the video. Now let's start inserting some variables, changing the formatting and so on, so we can get some really good content going on here. I'm going to fly over here real quick. The first thing I want to do is set up just a simple variable here. And we're just going to call it dish. And this is how you identify variables in Cynthia. So by me identifying dish, essentially later I want to put in the main topic of whatever dish is being created here. So in this context, it would be dish. And then we're going to basically put a subline of how to cook. Cook. And that's going to be a fixed variable. We're going to go ahead and delete that. So now when I call upon this, as you see in the Zapier flow, we're going to be able to insert a variable in there. So that's nice. The first variable we're going to have is going to be 2 curly brackets. And then we're going to make sure, or is it might be these. Okay, perfect. It's just 1 curly bracket. And we're just going to say intro, another curly bracket. And then we're going to go ahead and see. So it is actually 2 curly brackets. Once you've created that, it will look like this. And essentially default value would just be intro. This is where we're going to be start plugging in our scripts. If you want to add fixed text here, you could go ahead and do that. Say, let's get to it. So after the variable ChatGPT script we create, you want to have like some type of like fixed thing that it's always said throughout every single video. You can add it there. For the purpose of this video, I'm gonna just have it so basically the entire video is AI generated when it comes to the script. So our first script is intro. The next one is the cooking tip. So we're gonna do curly brackets. We're gonna say cook tip, curly brackets again, and then I'll do that. And then from here, we can go ahead and add our cooking tip. So we're gonna go ahead and do curly brackets, tip of cook, curly brackets again. So then we're gonna be able to not only insert the cooking tip as a speech, but also insert it as a piece of text. The last thing I want to do here for this slide is we're going to want to make sure we change our background here so it isn't just skyscrapers, because that does not look right. So let's go ahead and see what we can do there. So that was a little bit of an overlay there. And let's go ahead and see if we can change this real quick. All right, we're going to go ahead and use this. It shows a bunch of different spices, which is cool. We're going to go ahead and add our overlay back. And then now we should have a little bit of a video looping in the background as that cooking tip comes up. Let's go ahead and proceed to the next slide here, which is going to be our, explain part 1. So in explain part 1 is just kind of like the ingredients. So I'm going to say ingredients, or we're going to say get your list ready. And then we're going to go ahead and add a subtitle here, YouTube description, just add a little bit more context here. And then we're going to go ahead and say for our first part, we're going to expo 1. So make brackets as well. Again, obviously use variables that you can recognize when you're using it in Zapier. So if that is not recognizable to you, try a different type of input variable there. But for now, that is sufficient of what we want here. Let's go to the second level here. And this right here is going to be interesting because this is where we're going to learn how to add that AI image. The first thing I need to do for this is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this background media, as we don't need that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to upload the image that we're going to be using. This is very important. Whatever your dimensions are when it comes to the image, make sure to maintain it here. So for us, it's 1024 by 1024. So let's go ahead and upload that AI image real quick. Once the image is uploaded, we're just going to go ahead and drag it here like that. And then this works like any type of editing software that you're familiar with. You can just kind of right click and we're going to say send to back. And then from here, we have our image, but it's not a variable yet. So we're gonna have to make it a variable. We're gonna go ahead and hit these 3 little brackets here. We're gonna say add variable, and we're gonna say showcase food. And then essentially now we can grab and add data from the back end of Zapier and upload different images for every single video. That's really good to know. We're gonna go ahead and add our brackets here. We're gonna say expo 2. And then from here, we're gonna go ahead and say, this could be a variable text if you want to make another GPT block, but we're going to just say, let's cook together. Perfect. From here, we're going to go ahead and delete this little logo. And then the next slide, I went ahead and changed a different type of style here. So that was a voiceover. This is going to be just, straight talking to you. And all we need to do in this context is going to be bracket, bracket, expo 3, bracket, bracket. And now we get to our final slide here, which is going to be our conclusion slide. And we can go ahead and add a bracket, bracket, CON, and then bracket, bracket. Now, one thing you'll notice here is a delay. So you can add a delay timer. Typically at end of videos, maybe you want to add a delay timer to like showcase, hey, like watch this video or watch this playlist. So you'll have a nice little delay timer here. There's other stuff you can do here, such as gestures. So for example, I could have the AI avatar nod with head yes, head no, eyebrows up, and so on. So for the purposes of this video, we'll go it so that at the end of the intro, the avatar puts a head yes nod, which is going to be nice. From here, though, we can go ahead and jump through it all. And we're going to go ahead and just change this to let's get cooking. We're going to have parentheses. You can add a logo here if you wish to. You can add your email and your website if you want, or you can just do whatever you want for your final page that you feel is most effective for your niche and your YouTube video. But overall, we have basically finished our YouTube template here. One thing we can add is music. So this music will be played throughout the video. So maybe we want to add, let's see what we got. You can choose between all these different musics, but for now, we're not going to do that. You can also add scene transitions, which is pretty interesting. So I could add a scene transition here of a fade, and then basically it goes by each one. with a different type of scene transition. That can always be an effective way to make sure the user is engaged while watching the video. But overall, we have created our template for the long form content of our Zapier flow. So next, all we need to do is come up here to publish. I like including captions. That always helps with people who want to read along rather than just listen. And from there, we can go ahead and just hit publish template. So we have created our long form content. Now let's create the short version of this. So all we need to do is hit create template again. This is going to be a little bit faster, and we're going to just do short cooking template. And then from here, what we know about shorts is obviously it's a vertical orientation. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to shrink our avatar, or maybe not use an avatar at all. Shrink our avatar here, put it in the center, as we're going to be using a software that essentially automatically, renders it in the correct orientation. And then we're going to go ahead and just, call the script short food, semicolon, or bracket. And then from here, we can go ahead and mess around a little bit with the background. So let's go ahead and just change it to something like a light red is good. Now, one thing I like doing personally is if you were to do short content like this and you're basically referring to like, hey, watch this video, let's go ahead and automatically upload the thumbnail in this short as well. To do so, make sure you download that example thumbnail that you have previously from your Zap, and then let's go ahead and just go to media, upload media. All right, perfect. So we have the thumbnail here. It is important you grab the thumbnail download image from the template we created, because that's going to have the dimensions that are correct. So when you scale and you don't have to come back to this, it looks perfect. But we're going to have the thumbnail at the top. Then we're going to have the AI avatar talk about that little short script you created. But overall, that's all you really need to do for your shorts version of this content. Obviously, you can add a bunch more stuff here, but for now, we are going to go ahead and just make sure we do one more thing. Let's go ahead and add a variable here, and we're going to say thumb short. And then from here, all we need to do is hit publish template. And we're going to go ahead not to add captions because we're formatting it as a vertical orientation. You don't want the captions to look cut off, and we're going to hit publish template. So now that we're back in our Zapier flow, let's go ahead and connect the dots here. So the first step is we're going to go ahead and get a template ID. In order to do so, we're going to go back to Cynthia. We're going to go hit these three little ellipses, and we're going to say copy ID. Come back here, and we're going to go ahead and paste our ID. Now, one sad thing about Cynthia is that it doesn't have the ability to automatically grab the variables in the video. Therefore, we're going to have to do a lot of copy and pasting back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and shorten that for you and just do it automatically. So, boom. All right, there you go. So I got all the variables from that video. Two things to point out. First, don't use the brackets in the template data here. It won't be able to read it correctly. And the second thing is make sure you label them so you can understand it when you're over to the Zap, because you could get confused if you just do like 1, 2, 3, and you don't really have any context of what each one means. So to start off, the dish was from that first screen there that essentially was supposed to be the variable text of the dish we're going to be creating, which is going to be the lamb. The intro was the intro script that we created here earlier, and we're going to go ahead and make sure we add no quotations as we don't want that in the captions. The tip of cook was on that second slide there, where essentially we gave a little tip, and then let's go ahead and find cooking tip, perfect. And then we're gonna go ahead and do the same variable. So you can go ahead and see it as text version and as audio version. And then from here, we're gonna do expo 1. Luckily, we went ahead and already identified that with Starf Ingredients. And then the showcase food was the image data. So instead of using the thumbnail image, we're gonna go ahead and use the image in video in order to show differentiation between the thumbnail image content and then the video content that can really give diversity to your overall content that you have on the channel. Then we're going to go to part 2 here for Expo 2, and then we're going to go Expo 3 for part 3. And then finally for Con, we're going to do conclusion. So we're going to add that. Perfect. And then this is important. We want to make sure we add a callback ID, as this is just stage 1 of an AI automated YouTube channel. There's going to be other Zaps associated here. So what we're going to go ahead and call this is cooking long. And then essentially for the callback ID for the other one, we're going to do cooking short. This will make more sense as you jump further into this module. But for now, just go ahead and put a callback ID that you'll recognize. We're going to hit continue here. And we're not going to test the action yet because it's still publishing over on Cynthia. But let's go ahead and build out our second template here, which is going to be for the short form. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is for the long form, let's go ahead and just add a couple of contexts here when it generates over on the Cynthia side. So we're going to add the dish being created and then do square brackets, and we're going to put long So I understand when it's being generated that, hey, this is the long form, and then we're gonna have the short form over here. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. Let's do the dish being created here, and then let's go ahead and put in square brackets short. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna grab the template ID on Cynthia, and I'm gonna grab the variables from Cynthia. So I went ahead and grabbed the template ID and the two variables we're dealing with there, which is the short food and then the thumb short. So short food was obviously that little script we created right before this. And then the thumb short was the image of the thumbnail of the main video, which is great. Is all we need to do is come over here and we can grab it directly. That's already being generated in this flow. I always suggest going with JPEG as it is a smaller file size. From here, we're going to do cooking short as our callback ID. We're going to hit continue here. And let's go ahead and just test both of these actions in order to see if our final version of the content looks good. Just as a side note, when you want to see the processing time, you can go ahead and click this little logo here, and then that'll tell you what percent it is at before you can basically click publish and start actively pushing towards different templates or different content towards these templates. So keep that in mind. Don't automatically just push a video towards it because you might get an error. Let it fully generate the template that you just created. Once it is done, you'll be able to see a nice little logo like this. Let's go ahead and test these actions. So I'm going to go ahead and hit test action here. And this is going to be sending all the data towards Cynthia, towards that specific template we just created. And then let's go ahead and test the action for our short version as well. So I'm going to come over here and I will say in progress. That's how you know it's working. Let's test this action as well. And let's see what it looks like on Cynthia's dashboard. To access these videos, just simply click videos right here. And then you will see them currently generating. And as you see, we got our variable of the dish and we got the short and long version. Once these are both generating, let's go ahead and check out both. I'll leave them in the description below so you can check them out personally. And we'll be able to kind of wrap up today's lesson on how to make an AI YouTube channel in this context. So when a video is done processing, you won't see a little load screen here. You'll just get a straight icon. You just can go ahead and click it and then you can press play. Really cool stuff. I'm going to go ahead and share this in our description below so you can check it out yourself. But this is going to be the first step towards making a short version of the YouTube content. All right, so now you know how to build out a specific Zapflow in order to create the content that will then be used on your AI YouTube channel. Make sure to check out the other lessons here as I'm going to show you how to automatically upload these videos, automatically add them to playlists, thumbnails, and on top of that, add SEO titles and descriptions and so on. So check out the other lessons here and I'll see you there.